Alrighty then. Except everything is not alright. It's all wrong. More specifically, the Smarter Everyday YouTube channel recently uploaded a video about online privacy. This video is good, I liked it. In this video, Destin from this channel, Smarter Everyday, he promoted a Kickstarter project that funds the development of an app called 4privacy. I went to see the Kickstarter page and I watched the video that was linked there that is supposed to explain what the project is about. I discovered something bad that needs to be addressed. So, the Kickstarter project aims to get 175,000 United States of America dollars to fund the development of the app 4privacy. In this video in question, which is linked on the Kickstarter page, not the same one that is on the main Smarter Everyday YouTube channel, Destin describes an idea of a technology in such a way that he claims that this technology will be at work in the 4privacy application. Let us first hear Destin himself explain about something called lateral movement.
Let's say I had some embarrassing information about myself, and because you and I use end-to-end encryption to communicate, I could send something to you that the tech companies couldn't decode. But once my data falls out the other side of the encryption pipe, it's on your phone and I've lost control. The person on the other side may unknowingly give the file to the cloud because of where they choose to store it, or who knows, they could choose to post it on the entire internet. The moment you send something to another person, you have lost control. You're now exposed to what's called lateral movement in cybersecurity terms. Basically, if you have data at rest on someone else's system, it doesn't matter if your company used all the encryption in the world to send it. If it's sitting there, a hacker can get in, lateral movement, they can extract the data, you're vulnerable. So you are now, if it's on their system, you are trusting their hardware, you're trusting every app on every piece of hardware they have. You're trusting all that stuff to be impervious to hackers and cyber criminals. That's just not smart. What if instead of...
Nothing wrong so far. But then, let's now hear his so-called solution to this problem.
And cyber criminals. That's just not smart. What if instead of sending the data through the pipe and letting it fall out the other side where it may be stolen or accidentally released, what if we temporarily allow viewing of the file while it's still in the pipe? Basically, we let people temporarily view an encrypted version of the file, and then when they're done checking what they need to check, we can destroy it so it never lands as a static, unencrypted file on their system.
That does not work. It does not work, not at all. Let me first say that you can make, indeed, such software that erases the data once the sender so desires, within limits. But the problem is not that such software could not be made, it is the fact that it is not enough to make such a program. That is because there are several ways to get around the application. So my point is that no matter what the application does, you can get around the application. And there are many ways to get around the application. So, the problem is that he's talking about revoking the access to the data sent to another device. You cannot possibly force the other guy to erase data from their device ever without remote access to the device. So let me explain. Let's say there are device A and device B. Both are modern computers. Modern computers include smartphones, of course. Device A sends encrypted data to device B. Right here is where Destin says that the data will be encrypted while transferring. That is possible. Then device B needs to be able to display the data to the user of the device once received the data. This is where the problem rises. You see, for the device B to be able to display the data to the user, the data needs to be decrypted. Let me elaborate. If the user were to see only the encrypted data without decryption, then the user would only see something that looks like noise, because that is the whole purpose of encrypting data, so that only the people who know how to decrypt it can see the original data. So, if the device B has an access to the decrypted data, which is required to show it correctly to the user. Then this means that the device B does indeed have an access to the decrypted version of the data. And since modern computers are designed to manipulate large amounts of data in various ways at very high speeds, this means that once the device B has any access to the decrypted data, the device B can do anything with this data, within the limits of only the hardware and the skill of the programmer. So there is nothing stopping device B from storing the data permanently immediately as the device B has any decrypted access to the said data. I will now give you 3 examples of how the device B can store the data even if device A attempts to revoke it. 1. Screenshots and other video and audio recording software can be ran on the device B, which then will capture the data once it is decrypted. This way saving the data permanently and preventing the user of device A from revoking the data. 2. Device B could be running a modified version, if not a totally different application, made not to erase the data. When the user of device A wants to revoke the said data from device B, this application running on device B does not need to follow the orders of device A. 3. Even if you could somehow guarantee that no other software could possibly capture the data, the user of device B can still intercept the data once it is decrypted and send to the peripherals such as the monitor and the speakers. The ways of intercepting the data include, for example, hardware video capture cards and alike, or even a cassette recorder. And also, the user of device B can use a real-life camera, for example, and point it at the screen of device B, which is displaying the data. Or in the case of audio, for example, the user of device B can record the audio with a recording software on another device connected to device B through an audio cable. Keep in mind, these were just a few examples. There are more ways to capture the data. Then I will argue against some of the things Destin said in the video.
But if you do decide you want them to have a permanent copy of the file, whether it's an individual or a company, you can just give them an unencrypted version of the file. The key thing I want to build is that
the device B will always eventually need the unencrypted file in order to get any use of it, to, for example, display it on a monitor to the user. No matter how the data is sent to the device B, eventually it will always need to be decrypted, otherwise it will just look like noise.
the key thing I want to build is this ability to revoke access to the data.
You can sure build such a program, as I already said, but this program can be tampered with, and the data can still be intercepted regardless of what the application does.
Perhaps just as important as you holding the keys is that the code is open source. By making the code open source, the community itself can verify the trustworthiness of the code, and that's exactly what we're doing.
You should promote free software instead of open source. Many people get confused and don't know the difference between free software and open source. Open source and free software are not the same thing. Free software is the better one. You should use a free software license for your application.
If we succeed in making this technology, it'll fundamentally change the way people do business on the internet.
You will not succeed, because there are a multitude of methods of capturing the data at once as soon as it is decrypted.
You'll now be able to control your data, and you can share your data for a limited amount of time in order to conduct your business, and then you can simply revoke access, and you don't have to worry about your data being left unprotected.
You will not be able to control your data, since as soon as the other guy receiving the data has decrypted the data, they can store it permanently. So you do in fact still need to worry about the data being left unprotected. That is because your application is fundamentally flawed.
If you support this Kickstarter, you'll get our first implementation of this technology.
A flawed technology, but as I have already mentioned a couple of times, this technology can be built. But the problem is not that this app cannot be made. The problem is that this application has no power against the methods of capturing the data. The problem therefore is that this application is not safe against attacks. The revoking functionality of this app can be overcome easily by enough skill from the user.
A very important note here, I'm not getting any of this money. This is just something I really believe in and I want it to happen. So we're going to use this Kickstarter funding to support the software development team.
A respectable philosophy, but it is not enough when your actual product does not work the way you say it works. Still, the product can in fact work this way, but the problem is that this product cannot protect people as much as Destin makes it sound like it can.
This ability to call back your data from the other side is huge.
Like so. Overall, this sounds like a good project, and I'm not here to spread hate on anyone, except big tech corporations of course. Support this project if you want to. There are still extremely good and important reasons to support this, regardless of how badly it was portrayed by Destin in this video. In any case, do what you want with your money, as long as you are not simping for streamers on the internet, and so on.